What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to another video. Portfolio sitting on 174, 375. And if you're watching this, don't forget to subscribe. A lot of you guys watching the channel are not subscribed. And while you're here, don't forget to leave a like as well. But I'm growing this account to $250,000 by the end of the year through contributions and through market gains. I have a mostly concentrated portfolio in Meta, Google, Microsoft, and Amazon. These are my four biggest positions. And today we're sitting at a little bit of a loss today at 0.84%, representing $1,400, $1,500. I'm actually somewhat happy with this resilience here of the portfolio because if you look at the QQQ, we have a 2% negative day here for the Qs. So overall, having a 0.8% day, I'm not complaining. This week is packed with a bunch of news. We have Kevin Warsh speaking in front of the Senate and some other institution of the government. He's going to talk about the Federal Reserve. That's going to be his first talk in front of these officials. So that's going to be super interesting. Tomorrow morning, the most important news of the week and probably the month, we have the CPI print coming in at 8:30 Eastern time. And that's going to be big. I honestly think the CPI might come in hot tomorrow because the Hormuz Canal hasn't really been fully open for a long period of time. Whenever they opened the canal, they were talking about being months of operation for that thing to be back into full capacity and full operations and everything to be normal. So I really don't think that inflation has still cooled from like the 2 weeks that the thing was open. If you look at the news, Trump is back into tormenting Iran. There's more troubles out there, so that's not good. And we also have the big banks reporting earnings towards the end of the week. So the JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America's of the world. And that's going to be important to see how they are doing. That gives us a good gauge of consumer spend and also consumer resiliency, which is always cool to understand from them because they're the ones managing all of the money. Like I mentioned, portfolio 174, and I actually had to withdraw $1,000. So we're actually closer to 175 or at 175,332. We saw an intraday high of 177, which is really cool, or 178 with the extra $1,000. And like I mentioned, the portfolio is mainly concentrated in Amazon, Meta, Google, and Microsoft. But today we actually had a couple of different news as well. When it comes to SK Hynix, they were integrated into the NASDAQ 100 and they're falling hard. Let's look at SK Hynix and see how they're doing. So SK Hynix is down around 10% on the day, which is very brutal. And I just feel bad, man, because this is actually a quality company and there's so much hype around these companies that it just gets to a point where it's just unsustainable. And I think it's getting to that point now where we're seeing some pain with these semiconductor companies. Micron and SanDisk have not had a good day today and last Friday. Last week wasn't a good day either. So as you can see, they IPO'd on July 10th, and there was just a frenzy like you were expecting. Similar to SpaceX, they're trading up a bunch and now giving back all of those gains, trading now at negative 1.5% from their IPO price and negative 16, 15% from their all-time highs. I've been talking about why I'm not invested into these companies. I think these companies are very, very cyclical, and I think we're seeing the top of demand right now. Like, I understand they have a supply shortage and that these stocks are worth a lot of money with low PE ratios. Revenues are just front loaded. And I understand there's like a supply shortage and all this stuff, but I just don't see how this can continue. This is just crazy. Like, you look at SanDisk, for example, being probably the most egregious example of this whole trade, having ran 560% since the start of the year, which is insane. They're trading at $200. And, you know, this is just one example right here. Micron's not having a good day either, and they're down 9.7% on the week. But again, they had this gnarly run. They had 210% run this year so far, with all-time highs being at 311%, trading at $1,200, which is crazy. So this week we also have ASML and TSMC reporting earnings, which they are both semiconductor companies. So let's look at ASML right here. This is actually a company from the Netherlands, which is really cool to see. And they've had a magnificent run this last year at 116%. And they're reporting earnings, and the expectations are high. we're going to have to see a very strong earnings and guidance for these companies for them to continue this momentum. So this has been the talk of the year, these semiconductor companies. And I've been talking about how I think they're overextended. And if you go back a couple of videos, it's on tape. It's all on YouTube, whatever it is. And I'm not saying I'm calling the top or I'm calling the bottom. This is not what I'm saying. I just think that it's important to understand that these trades, momentum comes and goes. Like momentum dries up. I've seen it over and over. So this is what I think of the semiconductor trade. And I don't know where this is going to go. Like, yes, demand is still very high. The companies that I'm invested in are buying up a lot of these chips and building a lot of this infrastructure, like Microsoft, Meta, for example. And Meta has had a phenomenal week, phenomenal last 20 days, really. I think they had the best week last week since 2024, which is really cool. They're getting their Muse 1.1 model in distribution right now, which is this mega model they have, which is extremely cheap, very commoditized. So Meta is, of course, one of my bigger positions. I have around $60,000 worth of exposure through this contract right here. So super happy with that. They report earnings on the 28th, and it's going to be very telling for us to understand where they're going to guide and if they're going to raise CapEx or not, which they most likely will, and the stock will react negatively, I think. And I don't know, maybe we'll get used to it. Maybe the market is going to get used to high CapEx from these companies and being like, okay, this is just what they do now. And we're not going to sell off on earnings. But, I don't think that's going to happen. But in any case, we'll see what happens on the 28th. So this is where the portfolio is sitting right now. Again, we have three big things happening this week. We have a little bit of a crack in the memory trade. That's the biggest catalyst of this week. And we'll see what happens on ASML and TSM earnings that might drive some more selling pressure to them. And SK Hynix, of course, had a pretty bad day, and SanDisk as well. So we'll see what happens on that. We have also oil and geopolitics. So think of Trump in the Middle East and those efforts out there being instigated and getting worse. That's a big catalyst this week for us to watch in coming weeks. And we also have the CPI print, of course, coming tomorrow morning. We have the Federal Reserve Chair Kevin Warsh talking in front of different government bodies as well on Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken. And we have the big banks reporting earnings. So this is a packed week right now. Who knows what's going to happen with the portfolio? We've had actually a phenomenal couple of weeks. Let me show this to you guys here. On the month, we're actually up $8,000. And we're coming down from a pretty bad low here on June 26th. Our portfolio is trading at 151, 152, and now it's a 174. So a legendary return right here. And on the week, we're probably up a couple thousand. Yeah, we're up $3,000. So happy with this so far. Hopefully, we get some more strength into these names that were long, like Meta, Amazon, Google, and Microsoft, which are my four biggest positions, like I've been talking about. And we'll see what happens. Maybe some of that money from the semiconductors will come our way here into the big tech and the money-making machines that are Meta, Microsoft, and Google. Later this week, I'll give you guys an update on the progress when it comes to this week's portfolio actions. I appreciate you guys being here. If you're here and still watching, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like. I want to hear from you guys on what you're planning to do this week for your portfolio. Let me know what you guys think of these videos. I'm always trying to improve and bring you guys what you guys are interested in. So don't forget to leave a comment and a like. I'll talk to you guys soon. Appreciate you being here.